In the crypto world, fortunes are made and lost in the blink of an eye. But what if the biggest takedown in crypto history was really just setting the stage for the most unbelievable comeback? Well, today we are getting into the absolutely wild story of Binance and its founder, CZ. It's a story of crime, massive fines, and a political twist that, honestly, changed the game. I mean, just think about this for a second. How on earth does someone go from being the world's richest federal inmate 1 year to being an honored guest at Davos just 2 years later? It sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, this incredible flip is the absolute core of the Binance saga, and we're going to break down exactly how it went down. All right, so our story really kicks off with a huge showdown. Back in 2023, the US government decided it had had enough, and it brought its full weight down on Binance. We're talking a massive coordinated legal attack that was designed to do one thing: dethrone the king of crypto. And the price tag for peace? A jaw-dropping $4.3 billion. Yeah, billion with a B. To settle all the charges for breaking anti-money laundering laws and sanctions, Binance had to cough up one of the biggest corporate fines in US history. The message was loud and clear: nobody, not even in crypto, is above the law. Now, this wasn't just about a few slip-ups. No, the Department of Justice laid it out plain and simple. Binance's entire game plan, their whole business model, was basically built to intentionally dodge US laws. They knew what they were doing, they chose that rocket ship growth over playing by the rules, and eventually the bill came due. And the government did not mince words. The Attorney General himself said, utilizing new technology to circumvent law does not make you a disruptor, it makes you a criminal. Prosecutors showed how Binance had turned into a playground for illicit cash, handling money for terrorist groups, cybercriminals, you name it. To the DOJ, this wasn't some cool new innovation. It was just old-fashioned crime on a massive, modern scale. And for his part in all of this, the founder, CZ, pleaded guilty. Prosecutors, they wanted to make an example of him. They pushed for a 3-year prison sentence, arguing that if a billionaire gets a slap on the wrist, what's the point? But the judge saw it differently. In the end, CZ got just 4 months, a sentence that, you can bet, sent a huge wave of relief through the entire crypto industry. So, with CZ heading to prison and the check for $4.3 billion cashed, you might think the story's over. Nope. A whole new chapter was just starting. Binance was now forced to go from this Wild West, anything-goes platform to a completely buttoned-up traditional financial company, with Uncle Sam watching every single move. And the first big change? For the very first time, Binance got a real board of directors. This was a huge deal. It was a total departure from the one-man show it had been under CZ. They got a new CEO, Richard Tang, and made a really smart move by making a former ambassador the chairman. The message was clear: we're serious about playing nice with governments now. But that's not all. The settlement also stuck Binance with one of the most intense corporate babysitting gigs ever. 2 separate independent monitors were literally embedded inside the company. You had one from the DOJ watching for any criminal funny business, like money laundering, and another one from the Treasury's FinCEN unit, making sure they were following sanctions. For the next 5 years, Binance was going to be living under a government microscope. Now, this new life of hyper-compliance, as they called it, didn't come cheap. Not at all. To keep the monitors happy, Binance dumped an estimated $200 million into its compliance department in just 1 year. By 2026, a quarter of their entire staff, over 1,500 people, were all working in compliance. That's insane. Okay, so this is where things get really, really interesting. You've got all this money, all these people, all this government oversight. You'd think Binance would be squeaky clean, right? Well, according to their own numbers, it was. But some investigative journalists were about to uncover a totally different story. I mean, look at this. On paper, the results were incredible. Binance was boasting that its exposure to sanctioned groups had dropped by almost 97%. It looked like a total home run. But was it too good to be true? And then, boom. An investigation called the Coin Laundry dropped, and it just blew the doors off Binance's whole success story. It found that even after the guilty plea, over $400 million from a massive criminal syndicate, one the US Treasury itself called a major money launderer, had flowed right through Binance. Turns out, they were still very much in business with the bad guys. So you're probably asking, how is that even possible? Well, it all comes down to something called backward-looking compliance. You see, all those expensive new tools Binance bought, they're fantastic at blocking transactions from known bad addresses that are already on a blacklist. But what do smart criminals do? They're constantly creating brand new addresses, ones that aren't on any list yet. So Binance could check all the boxes and look compliant while still taking in millions in dirty money. So, just as this really troubling picture was starting to emerge, the story took its wildest turn yet. A completely unexpected decision from the White House was about to flip the script, not just for CZ, but for the entire crypto industry in the US. Let's just walk through the timeline because it's something else. September 2025, the Trump family starts a new crypto company. A little while later, a big fund in the UAE says it wants to buy a piece of Binance, and it plans to use the Trump company's new stablecoin to do it. Then, on October 23rd, President Trump grants CZ a full, unconditional pardon. A few days after that, Binance's US platform starts pushing that Trump-affiliated coin hard. You can connect the dots there. Now, officially, the White House didn't frame it as some kind of personal favor. They sold it as a massive policy shift. The press secretary literally declared that the previous administration's war on crypto was over. It was a 180-degree turn, signaling that America was now open for crypto business. Well, as you can probably guess, this whole sequence of events set off a firestorm. It immediately triggered a congressional inquiry. Critics weren't buying the policy shift argument. They were saying this looked a lot like a quid pro quo, that Binance had basically just bought its way out of trouble. So let's recap. You've got a record-shattering fine, a founder in prison, government watchdogs crawling all over the company, and a huge political scandal. You'd think Binance would be crippled, right? But what actually happened was the complete opposite. The crypto king came out of the fire stronger and more powerful than ever. Just how dominant? Well, by 2026, Binance controlled almost 40% of the entire global crypto exchange market. Let that sink in. That is more than its next three biggest competitors combined. It's not even a competition anymore. They are in a league of their own. And the numbers behind that market share are just mind-bending. Over 300 million registered users, an annual trading value of over $34 trillion, and they're holding over $200 billion of their customers' assets. I mean, despite everything that happened, they became an untouchable global financial giant. And this is the craziest irony of this whole story. By trying to take Binance down, the US government actually made it stronger. All that forced compliance, the monitors, the hundreds of millions in spending, it basically acted as a government-run stress test. It sent a giant signal to big Wall Street money that, hey, Binance is now safe, it's been audited, it's legit. The government basically gave Binance its stamp of approval. Which leads us to the final question, and it's the one that really matters. The story of Binance is really about a renegade outsider getting pulled into the system, into the very establishment that tried to crush it. So when an outlaw is forced to join the club and becomes more powerful than ever in the process, you have to ask yourself, who really won here?